Crafty Journaler. Welcome to the Crafty Journaler. My name is Sarah, and this is the Crafty Journaler, and this is my channel where I do a lot of fun crafts for junk journaling. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Turn on your notification bell and let a friend know that we're here. That way we could grow this channel together. I have a very fun video for you guys today, and it's going to be kind of like a craft along with me. And I actually have a prototype for you guys today. So I was thinking about what to do with some of my packaging from Amazon that I've received, specifically this one here. I kind of like the crinkly. It gives that sound, the crinkly sound that it gives. But of course, it's not just pretty enough to just use as the journal itself right away. So we have to kind of like zhuzh it up a little bit, right? So I thought it would be really cool to use some of those scraps that I have had for a while, put away and not knowing what to do with them, and create a cool little like collage or fabric, like my own fabric with a bunch of patches of the fabric scraps that I have. And this is what I came up with, and I thought it would be really fun to try to do it together for the other one. So basically I wanted to open like so this is gonna be where my spine would lay at whatever point that I add in some paper in here, and this is how it's gonna close and open, kind of like a trifold. So far that's the idea. It might switch to just being a regular kind of fold, which would be in that case something like this. So I'm still playing around with it, but I thought it would be really cool if we did this together, and so that you could try to do it at home. It's really easy to make, to be honest. I didn't realize how easy it was going to be. I was trying to make it earlier, and I think I was overcomplicating it, and when I started to just work through it without thinking too much about it, it came out really cool. I really enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and get started. You're probably going to need some scraps. You're going to need some glue. You're going to need your sewing machine. And the reason you're going to need sewing machine is because glue doesn't really, specifically like fabric glue or silicone glue doesn't really stick well to plastic, and this is plastic. So you're going to want to use a sewing machine to sew down your fabric, because otherwise it's not going to be durable. So you'll need your sewing machine if you have one, and if you don't have one, what I would recommend is using like paper packaging paper instead of plastic packaging paper, and then you'll be able to just use glue. And instead of using like our fabri-fix glue, I would use Mod Podge. So going back to the materials you'll need fabric scraps, you'll need the packaging, you're gonna need glue, you're gonna need your sewing machine, you'll need some metal decorations for your corners, and you're also gonna need Velcro to create your closure. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So I started off by cutting it to the size that I want, and it's not perfect. It's actually pretty crooked, so we're gonna go ahead and fix that to start off with. So you want to cut it to size. I'm probably gonna have to do that off camera, so give me 1 second here. And for this one, we're gonna be doing 8 by 13, which is similar. So now that we have it cut to size, we're gonna start gluing like patches of fabric onto what's gonna be the front of our journal cover. So what I would do is I just started grabbing on some fabric and started laying it where I wanted it to be. So for example, right here, I grab a little bit of the fabri-fix glue and put some there, and there we go, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna just continue to do this all throughout the journal. We're gonna, or the front of the journal. So you're just gonna grab fabric, find where you want it to be, and then you're gonna glue it down. And like when you're putting down the glue, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna sew this down. It just has to tack it down for you while you get to the sewing machine, pretty much. So don't try to be too perfect with it, just kind of go with the flow. You want to overlap them just a little bit as well. As you can see, I'm overlapping, I would say about a 1/4 of an inch. Now that you saw me do this part, I'll go ahead and do this off camera, and then I'll be right back. And we're back. So now we have this lovely pattern of fabric together, glued onto our the front of our what's going to be our journal cover. And now what we're going to do is we're going to glue the excess fabric that we left out. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to put some glue down, and then we're going to cut some of that corner off so that it closes better, or like ties down better to the corner. And we're gonna push that down. The same thing on the opposite side. And we're just gonna continue to glue down the edges. And okay, so we have it all onto our piece of packaging paper. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew this all around. So we're gonna sew each little block down to make sure that it stays in place. I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera because it could be a little time consuming. And we're back, and this is what we ended up with. So we have our little patched journal cover. And now we're gonna add some little tulle over the top just to kind of make it all kind of blend in a little bit more. And the tool that I am using at the moment is this one right here. And it has a little bit of glitter, and the glitter does tend to kind of fall off. I don't really like it, that doesn't really bother me, but I know there's some people that don't love the glitter to be all over and stuff like that. So if that's something that it's gonna bother you, what I would recommend is using a lace or even tulle that doesn't have the glitter. I think the glitter kind of gives it a little extra something, so I am okay with it. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut it to size pretty much. Doesn't have to be exactly to size because you still want to glue it onto the front of the journal. So I usually leave about an inch just to make sure that it secures, because when it stretches, it does get a little fragile. So we want to make sure that it's going to be lasting. So now we have our tool to size. We're just going to flip it over and we're going to glue it down on the sides. And this is a fabri-fix glue. So fabri-fix glue is a silicone glue. It is really good for fabric, paper, anything that you want it to tack and stay on. It does really good job to do so. The only reason that I don't recommend it just to use it on plastic without sewing it is because I feel that plastic does tend to kind of rub off of it a little bit. So yeah. Now we're going to be doing a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now we have the outside pretty much done. So now what we're going to do is the inside. Now in our prototype, the inside is done with a little bit of Denman and a piece of fabric to complete it. I have a good amount of Denman to cut it to size, which we will cut it to size, and I think that we'll be using this to complete it. So what I was doing is I kind of just laid it flat and then laid my cover on top, and then I just traced it over with a chalk for fabric. If you sew, you probably know what this is. I don't know the name for it. I just know that you could use it on fabric. If you don't have this little chalk thing, you could use a pencil or even a marker. I've used a marker before. It really just depends on how meticulous you are about like leakage and stuff like that, or if you don't mind it too much, which I don't tend to mind certain things like that because I feel like all of that gives it character. So just depends on you. So once you are here, you're gonna cut off this portion. So make sure you use your fabric scissors. So this is my like crafting scissors. This is my fabric scissors. And just try to follow the line as best you can. And you could either keep this, so you could use in your journal, or you could toss it. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then one more time. Okay. So now that we have that, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cut the weird angle off of right here. And what I do is I kind of trace a line with my ruler. Very simple, easy, kind of working smarter, not harder, not overcomplicating anything. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we are going to cut this to size as well. So we're going to need a good amount right here. So just cut this off right here. And what we're going to do is we're gonna grab this fabric and we're gonna connect it to this side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew it down. And you want them face to face. So the front of the fabric to the front of the fabric. And then you're going to sew down. You're going to sew a little bit, back stitch, and then sew all the way down, and then you're going to back stitch, and then you're going to sew it. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're going to end up with something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the ironing board and we're going to iron this down. If this is a quick tip, if you have like starch, you could use that because it'll give it a nice grip and sturdy feel. If you don't, just water and mist it down and then iron it down. And you want to do that so that when you put it on your journal, it's gonna lay nice and flat for you. It's not gonna create a bulkiness, and it's all gonna look nice and even. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and here we are. This is what we ended up with. So now we obviously need to cut this to size. I will be using this as my guide and just cutting off the excess of the sides. Okay, and then we're gonna cut this to this size. And I do want a good amount of the pink in there, so I'm going to lay it flat. And now we're just going to use our scissors and cut along the edge of our journal. Okay. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Lay this nice and flat. And then okay, so I know you could see some of this on the sides. I will probably cut that off once I sew it down. The reason that I'm not trying to do it too meticulous now is just that sometimes it'll move a little bit and I want to make sure that it's nice and tucked on there, so, or nice and tacked on there. I will be using a little bit of glue as well, so just kind of spreading the glue all over, not necessarily even, but with some level of precision. And then we're going to okay. And lay it down. And now we're gonna be sewing all around. So I am going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm just gonna sew along all the edge. Okay, so we end up with this. Now, before we do move on, I want to make two quick little like verbal disclaimers. Just because I am not a professional seamstress, but I do know that at sometimes like running glue under your sewing machine is not smart, especially when it's not dry fully. So if you do decide to sew this on your machine, please be aware that glue can be detrimental to your sewing machine if not properly like cleaned off afterwards, or even to make sure that you maintain your machine at um, a certain level of maintenance into it. I've been doing this for a really long time. My machine is still the same machine I started with when I started doing junk journals, and it is well kept and well maintained. However, that is something to keep in mind. You know, glue, paper, stuff like that. Sewing machines are meant for fabric, so um, you might want to think about maybe getting a sewing machine from the thrift store to try stuff like this instead of like going out and buying a brand new sewing machine in order to do something like this. My sewing machine, I've had it, I mean, forever. It's been, uh, I mean, I got it a really long time ago. I can't even remember when I got it. That's how long my machine has been with me. So I do try to take care of it. I try to like make sure that I dust it off as much as possible. It's on my like my desk right here off to the side right here. And it's like something that's always out. I don't really use it all the time, but it's always out. So it's always threaded. It's always well oiled and well cleaned and all of that stuff. So again, if you do decide to choose to sew with glue or even paper, please be sure to maintain your machine well. That way you don't end up with a messed up machine or something like that. Anyways, enough with the heavy, moving on. So now I will be continuing to do our journal, which the next step is to add the Velcro onto our journal. So it's going to be something like this. So we're going to do it like so, but that's the inside. So maybe we'll do it like this. There we go. That's the ticket right there. So this is how we're gonna have it lay. And here is our piece of Velcro. And we're gonna start off by gluing it down on one side with the fabri-fix glue. Like so. And now what I'm going to do is I am also going to be using the fabri-fix glue on this side. And I am going to put a good amount of glue. And then I am going to try to just place this over nice and even and push it down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to separate it gently so that it's not to tear away from the fabric. So with good pressure on both sides. Okay. So now we have our Velcro onto our journal. What we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew along the edges with a straight stitch. remembering to front stitch, back stitch, sew around, front stitch, and back stitch at the beginning and at the end. What that does, it helps that the thread doesn't like easily come off, and it just makes it more secure. So let's go ahead and do that. And so we have our Velcro nicely sewn to our journal cover. And the last thing to do from our prototype is adding the corners into our journal. So we have our corners right here, and we'll need one for each corner, which add up to 4. Okay. And the way I do this is just what makes sense for me is I open them up a little bit more. In this case, it doesn't really need a whole lot more because the cover is not as big as I usually use. So just a little bit. Then I grab my silicone based glue, fabri-fix, and then I add a good amount on there. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to slide it into the corner here. And since this is fabric and it's kind of loose, I have this little tool here that I just use to kind of push in the fabric, trying to, of course, not pull my corner out. And then I hold it in place for a little bit to allow the glue to dry a little bit. And then I grab a little hammer or Smith hammer, and then I just, sorry, I'm sure that doesn't sound great on the microphone here, but yeah, this is basically what I do right here. And now I'm going to do that for the rest of the corners, and I'll be right back. And now we have our cover with our little book corners. I feel like book corners, or yeah, like the corner on books, make things look a lot more lush and cute and finished. So I really enjoy putting on these little metal corners on my journals. And this is what we ended up with. So here's our prototype. We have, and this is what we came up with here together. And as you can see, like, it's unique because even though you're using the same fabric, it's not the same pattern, and even the inside is different. And yeah, that's what we came up with. If you enjoyed this video today, please be sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all that fun interactive stuff. It really helps the algorithm push my content out there for more eyes to be exposed to this type of content. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. You all have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you next time. That's a wrap. Bye.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it.